Basements, those spaces we often ignore, can conceal far more than forgotten boxes and old furniture. Join us as we dive into the top 20 most disturbing discoveries found in people's basements, from downright bizarre creatures to shocking relics of the past. Number 20. Two fetuses in jars. When two contractors were called in to renovate an old building in Hannibal, Missouri, they never expected to stumble upon a chilling discovery. Tucked away in a basement, hidden beneath a dusty cloth and an old medical examination table, were two jars containing fetuses. The building, as it turns out, once served as a clinic in the early 1900s, and rumors suggest it was used for illegal abortions before the 1950s. The current owner, William Neff, recalled his parents mentioning similar jars when they bought the property in 1950, though they rarely discussed it. Neff's father had run a chiropractic clinic there, but before that, a doctor named Hopkins operated a clinic in the building. Some suspect Hopkins may have been involved in illegal procedures. The discovery shocked the contractors and sparked curiosity about the building's dark past. The Hannibal History Museum curator, Lisa Marks, confirmed the building's use as a clinic in the early 1900s. Local authorities were called, and after careful consideration, the police, along with a funeral home, arranged for a proper burial for the remains, ensuring the closure of this unsettling chapter in the building's history. Number 19. An underground city. Imagine discovering an entire underground city while making simple renovations to your home. That's exactly what happened in Turkey in 1963. A man, while knocking down a wall in his basement, stumbled upon a hidden passage. Little did he know that this was the entrance to the ancient underground city of Derinkuyu. This wasn't just any small structure. Derinkuyu is an enormous city buried beneath the earth. Stretching 18 stories deep, it could house up to 20,000 people. To this day, it stands as the largest underground city ever discovered. The origins of Derinkuyu are still debated, but many historians believe it may have been created by people seeking refuge from the Hittites, who ruled the region around 2000 BC. There are tales that they dug this massive underground network to escape threats above ground. However, it's hard to pinpoint exactly who built it, but the city's age and purpose are truly fascinating. What's even more impressive is the city's durability. Despite being over 4,000 years old, none of its floors have collapsed. This is largely due to the type of rock in the region, which also made it easier to dig and expand, allowing for plenty of space to house thousands of residents. While living in an underground city likely came with its own set of challenges, the people who resided there clearly found ways to make it work. Can you imagine the shock the man must have felt when, instead of finding extra room for his renovations, he uncovered a long-lost civilization? One minute you're upgrading your home, the next, you're standing in an ancient city that's remained hidden for millennia. Number 18. Over 1,200 bones found hidden in Franklin's basement. In 1998, during the renovation of Benjamin Franklin's former London residence on Craven Street, workers stumbled upon a chilling discovery. Over 1,200 bone fragments buried in a hidden basement pit. These remains, which belonged to at least 15 individuals, included both adults and children. Some of the bones even bore clear signs of surgical cuts, showing that they had been used for anatomical studies. The remains date back to Franklin's time in the house, from 1757 to 1775. However, the bones weren't directly connected to Franklin himself, but rather to his close friend and housemate, William Hewson. Hewson, a respected anatomist of the time, used the house as an anatomy school, secretly performing dissections. Since the laws around dissection were murky and bodies were hard to obtain legally, many medical practitioners resorted to grave robbing or using cadavers from executions. The remains were then quietly buried in the basement to avoid legal trouble. Though it might sound like something out of a horror story, this grim discovery had a significant impact on medical science in the 18th century. Hewson's studies contributed to understanding anatomy, despite the ethically questionable methods used to obtain bodies. Benjamin Franklin, always a champion of science, likely knew about the activities in his basement, though he was not directly involved in the dissections. Number 17. Alligator. When a repairman walked into a home in Lansing, Illinois, he expected to fix some faulty appliances, not to come face to face with a 6-foot alligator. Hidden in the basement, the massive reptile had been there for an astonishing 26 years. Confined in a large cage, the owner, Charles Price, had been keeping the alligator as a pet, feeding it raw chicken and allowing it to occasionally roam in his backyard. The discovery shocked authorities. Not only was the alligator large, weighing 200 pounds, but it was also kept in conditions far from its natural habitat. Price was quickly charged with unlawful possession of an endangered species. Although he insisted that he had cared for the animal, officials pointed out the dangers involved in keeping a wild predator, like an alligator, in a residential home. Neighbors were stunned, having had no idea about the alligator's existence. It wasn't until the repairman spotted movement in the cage and alerted authorities that the secret was exposed. Conservation officers from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources arrived to remove the alligator and ensure public safety. This bizarre situation left many wondering how such a large and dangerous animal could be hidden in plain sight for over 2 decades. Number 16. A father's bones. Imagine living your entire life with questions about your father's sudden disappearance. Michael Carroll was only 8 months old when his father George vanished without a trace in 1961. For decades, Michael and his siblings were told that their father had simply gone out to buy cigarettes and never came back, leaving their mother to raise them alone. Over the years, rumors swirled. Perhaps George had run off with another woman, or maybe something more sinister had happened. But no one really knew until Michael bought his childhood home. Determined to uncover the truth, he sought help from psychics and even employed ground-penetrating radar. What he found beneath the basement floor was shocking. There, twisted and buried under layers of concrete, were his father's remains, lying just 5 feet below the surface. George's skull bore the unmistakable marks of blunt force trauma, sparking a murder investigation. The police confirmed through DNA testing that the bones in fact belonged to George Carroll, a Korean War veteran. But how did he end up buried in the family basement? Was it a crime of passion? Or something else? With Michael's mother having passed away in 1998, it seems we may never know. The discovery brought a sense of closure to Michael and his family after almost 60 years of uncertainty. But the question still lingers. What really happened to George Carroll? Number 15. Mysterious woman. In Bowling Green, Kentucky, something strange happened at the home of Bruce Wilkerson, who was the town's mayor at the time. On the night of April 22, 2020, Bruce was staying at a small house he owned, which was undergoing renovations. In the middle of the night, he woke up to strange noises coming from the basement, and along with the noise, he could smell cigarette smoke. The basement, which was more like a cellar, had an entrance outside the house. When Bruce went to check it out, he noticed blood smeared on the basement door, just enough to make him concerned. He opened the door and found a backpack filled with women's clothing and other random items. Bruce, who had previously served as a police officer, immediately contacted the Bowling Green Police Department. He asked if there were any missing person reports, but was told that none had been filed. He decided to lock the door and head back upstairs. Not long after, the power in the house went out. This prompted him to return to the basement, where he discovered the door was now open. Upon searching inside again, he found a disheveled woman who appeared to be in her 20s. She was dirty and clearly frightened. When Bruce tried to call the police, she quickly ran out of the basement before he could stop her. Although nothing was stolen, Bruce still reported the incident. Despite a search of the area, the woman was never found, and her identity remains a mystery. With no missing person cases matching her description, it's unlikely that the situation will be resolved anytime soon. She hasn't been seen again since that night. Number 14. Secret housemate. It started like any typical day for the students living in an off-campus house on 13th Avenue in Ohio. They assumed their home was shared with only 10 housemates, until strange things began happening. The microwave, which no one had used, appeared recently used. Random drawers were left open, and there were mysterious sounds coming from the basement. These little signs suggested something wasn't quite right. One day, Brett, one of the housemates, went down to the basement to reset a tripped breaker. What he found was unexpected. A man, who introduced himself as Jeremy. This stranger had been living in the basement, completely unnoticed. He refused to answer Brett's questions, leaving everyone in the house confused. The housemates decided to investigate further, but couldn't open the locked door to a part of the basement. Eventually, with the help of the landlord and police, they broke into the locked room. Inside, they found a fully furnished living space, complete with personal items like photos, clothes, and a TV. These belongings didn't belong to any of the residents. As it turned out, Jeremy had been secretly living there for months, slipping in and out using a side door that none of the tenants knew about. It remains unclear how long he stayed or why he chose this house, but the unsettling discovery left everyone shocked. Jeremy was evicted, and the locks were changed, but the memory of their secret housemate would be hard to forget. Number 13. Mummified infant remains and a Peter Pan obsession. In 2010, a woman in Los Angeles made a shocking discovery while cleaning out her apartment building's basement. Hidden inside a trunk, wrapped in newspapers from the 1930s, were two mummified infant remains. Along with the remains were Peter Pan-related items, including a copy of the book by J.M. Barrie and a membership card for the Peter Pan Woodland Club. The trunk belonged to Janet M. Barrie, whose name eerily matched the famous author of Peter Pan, though no familial link was found. DNA tests revealed that the infants were Janet's own children, leading to speculation that they may have been born out of wedlock. Given the time period, it's possible the infants died shortly after birth, but why she chose to hide their bodies remains an unsolved mystery. The combination of the mummified infants and the Peter Pan memorabilia has puzzled investigators and sparked countless theories. The tragic discovery left many unanswered questions, including Janet's connection to the Peter Pan theme and why she kept the bodies hidden for decades. Despite extensive investigation, no definitive conclusion has been reached, and the circumstances surrounding Janet's actions will likely remain a mystery forever. Number 12. 19th century well. A well in and of itself doesn't seem particularly frightening. It's out in the open, you can approach it with care, and you can see what's coming. But what if that well wasn't outside? What if it was right under your feet, hidden beneath your home, waiting for you to fall into its depths? Christopher Town, 67 years old, was helping a friend move furniture when the unthinkable happened. As he walked across the floor, he heard a sharp crack. Before he could react, the floorboards gave way beneath him, and Christopher plunged 20 feet into the cold, dark abyss of a 19th century well. This wasn't just any well, though. It had been capped off years ago, originally located outside the house. But when the home was expanded in the 1980s, the well was left uncovered, hidden only by wooden boards. When the floor gave way, Christopher fell into the well, clinging to the rough stone walls to keep from drowning. His feet never touched the bottom, and for several terrifying minutes, he fought to stay above the water. The situation could have been disastrous, but rescuers arrived in time to pull him to safety. Wells like these, often dug in the 19th century, were essential back in the day, serving as the main water source for many homes. But when they were forgotten or improperly sealed, they became hazards, just waiting for an unsuspecting victim to fall in. Number 11. Sharks. In July 2017, police in Georgia stopped Joshua Sigwin from New York for driving without a license. During the routine search of his truck, officers found something unexpected: 5 small sharks in a large tank. Without the proper permit, owning or transporting these animals was illegal, and Joshua admitted he planned to sell them once he got to New York. This discovery led authorities to obtain a warrant to search Joshua's home. When they entered his basement, they were met with a shocking sight: a 15-foot above-ground pool filled with more sharks. There were 10 sharks in total, including 7 live sandbar sharks, 2 dead leopard sharks, and a dead